So that catches George's attention, so he takes a closer look. So now what we see is a set of recommendations for things to do in Paris. Things like restaurants or cafes, museums, landmarks. Great places that George can discover. And what Wanderfly has done is rank ordered these recommendations around the selections that he's made. And it's also organized them in this really beautiful visual format. So it makes it really easy for George to browse and see the ones he likes, save them, and add them to his itinerary. For example, the Louvre, the most famous museum in Paris. We see that this museum has been recommended by the Smithsonian, Justin, a really well-known travel blogger, and some of George's friends. And that's actually the beauty of Wanderfly, is that we're not just making recommendations based on things that George's friends recommend. We're looking for trusted experts and sources that have some level of expertise. Because that basically eliminates the guesswork that George has to do when planning his trip. And he knows that all of these great options are going to be things that he likes and that match his preferences. So he keeps browsing, adding new things to his trip, and starts to build his itinerary. But what if George wants to experience Paris in a different way? What if he wants to be an artiste, or luxe gourmand, or even a chic connoisseur? Well, lucky for him, we have this great feature that we call lenses, which are smart filters that automatically generate recommendations around a specific type of persona. So you know what? If George wants to be a hip, cool, trendy Parisian, he can do that. We've got some great restaurants for him. We've got some great cafes, boutiques that he can go shopping at. Heck, he can even go to the most famous chocolate shop in Paris and spend $40 on a macaroon. So as you see, George is really into planning his trip. He's got some great recommendations. Now he can see all of these choices on his profile page. You can see his trip really come to life and start looking at which activities he wants to keep and which of them, maybe he wants to remove. So if we look at the map, there's a couple there that are a little out of the ways. Maybe he wants to get rid of those. But all in all, it's really shaping up to be a nice trip. And we've only spent 2 minutes of this demo sending George to Paris. But there is one last thing. George never really stops working. Right?
It's that way.
So when George is in Paris, he wants to take some of his vacation time and meet some local entrepreneurs out in the city. So he uses a great Q&A feature that we have on the site, and he makes a request to our community. So he's looking for entrepreneurs, co-working spaces, etc. He pings it out to our community. He also throws it on a couple social networks, Twitter, etc. And he's asking for opinions from the community about those places. And lucky for him, Christy here just came back from Paris and was hanging out with all the local startups. She's standing about 20 feet away from George, so she sees his request on Twitter, clicks on it, logs into Wanderfly, and recommends. There's a great spot in Paris called La Cantine. So La Cantine is a local co-working space where a lot of local Parisian startups hang out. So George is going to add that to his trip. So George's trip is now complete. He can email it to himself. He can share it with his friends. He can even buy flights and hotels directly on the site. So there you have it, Wanderfly, the most fun, personal, and absolutely gorgeous way to plan your trip. Two quick announcements before we wrap up. The first is our site is now live. Check it out, wanderfly.com. Start planning your trip right away. And the second one is that we will be raising a new round of funding fairly soon. So if you want to join investors like George Zachary, like Jason Calacanis, and Dave Morin, please send us an email, launch@wanderfly.com. Thank you.
Awesome. Questions from our judges?
How did you guys populate the database, and how many entries do you have in there now?
Right now, we have over 8,000 different pieces of content that have been curated by travel bloggers, experts, and brands. So you probably saw stuff like Smithsonian, and then there were some travel experts. We started out with a private beta, basically, over the last 4 weeks in order to populate the content. But now it's open to everyone.
How do you get the photography, and how does it work for places that maybe aren't as famous as the Eiffel Tower?
I think, we're kind of depending on the community for that. So right now, the photos are either uploaded by the user, or they're found on the internet and kind of pinned on the site, or we have a special feature that automatically kind of searches for a specific place on Google. So we do make that easy, and in some places, you're obviously going to find more photos. In other places, it's a little more difficult to find. But I think having a lot of people from the community participate will help to populate that.
So how do you, for example, when friends are coming into town to visit in Vegas, I'm going to show them kind of the areas of downtown Vegas that most tourists don't go to. But I'm not a great photographer. So if you want to maintain the gorgeous aspect of your tagline, how do you balance the two?
I mean, basically, you can upload there are 3 ways you can do photos. You can upload photos, you can pin it via another site, so sort of like a Pinterest model, or ping our Google API for it.
Right, and I'm saying these places may not have
Yeah.
great photos, so anyways, just something to think about if you want to maintain the aesthetic as well.
The other thing we do is we moderate some of the content. So we have content managers on our team who are looking through stuff and trying to represent cities in the best way.
You could look at Flickr Commons, or you could just hire local photographers to do it for you. That'd be great.
Right, but then that gets expensive.
How do you make money?
So there are 2 ways to make money. Right now, the model that's really taking off is allowing different types of brands to curate experiences on the site. So there's money attached to these brand pages that we've started to create. In the medium term, we're looking at affiliate commissions from flights and hotels.
And TripAdvisor now is a $400 or $500 million a year revenue business.
Yes, this year it's actually projected to be 750 million, and 80% of that is actually from affiliate commissions. So, we think that by creating a very rich research and planning experience, we make it easy to kind of hand off the user to that transaction once they're ready to purchase.
Do you need reviews to be successful? Do you need reviews to be successful?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Let's hear it for Wonderfly. Well done. Awesome. All right. Next up, Moosify. Moosify.
Ready to go? Perfect. Hello, everyone. I just wondered how many of you have ever made a mixtape in order to approach a girl or a guy? Okay, quite a few. And I did it, and it worked out wonderful. And there seems to be something magical when it comes to music and connecting to people